Well. Todd Monken is now the head coach of the Baltimore Ravens, and the moment that news dropped, it immediately created a huge conversation around one particular player, Shedeur Sanders. At first glance, many people believed that Shedeur Sanders was a lock to be the QB1 for the Cleveland Browns heading into next season. Fans, analysts, and even some former players felt like the situation was pretty clear. But as soon as Monken stepped into his new role and started doing interviews, the media in Cleveland wasted absolutely no time putting him on the spot. One of the most well-known reporters in Cleveland, Mary Kay Cabot, jumped right into the question that everyone was thinking about. During Monken's very first interview, she asked him directly whether he would enter the offseason with Shedeur Sanders as his QB1. It was a straightforward question, but it was also one designed to stir up conversation. Monken, however, gave the kind of answer you would expect from a seasoned coach. He didn't commit to anyone. Instead, he said that every position on the team is still to be determined and that he's excited to work with all the quarterbacks currently in the room. Now, on the surface, that sounds like a very standard coach response. Coaches rarely give away their plans before the offseason even begins. But what made things interesting was what Monken said later when another reporter asked him about the traits he looks for in a quarterback. Instead of talking only about arm strength or physical talent, Monken focused on personality and leadership. He talked about the it factor, the type of presence that makes a team believe in their quarterback. According to him, the quarterback is the one player who has the ball in his hands almost every single play, especially during critical moments like 2-minute drills and late-game situations. And the moment he said that, a lot of people immediately thought about Shedeur Sanders. Love him or hate him, there's no denying that Sanders has that type of presence. He's one of the most talked about young players in football today. His journey has already been full of drama and headlines. At one point, he was projected as a potential first-round pick, yet he ended up falling all the way to the 5th round in the draft, something that shocked a lot of fans and analysts. Despite that setback, Sanders didn't fold under pressure. Instead, he kept moving forward and continued building his reputation both on and off the field. The truth is, Shedeur Sanders has been in the spotlight his entire life. Being the son of Deion Sanders means attention has followed him since he was a kid. From reality television appearances to the massive media coverage surrounding Deion's coaching moves at Jackson State and later at Colorado, Shedeur has always had cameras on him. That kind of upbringing prepares someone for pressure in a way most athletes never experience. When he steps onto a football field, the spotlight doesn't scare him. It's something he's already used to. Another interesting detail that fans started digging up involves Todd Monken himself. Years ago, when Shedeur Sanders was still in high school, Monken was working as an offensive coordinator and quarterback coach at Georgia. During that time, Georgia actually offered Sanders a scholarship. That means Monken has known about Shedeur's talent for a long time. And it doesn't stop there. Reports also suggest that when Monken was working with the Baltimore Ravens organization, there was interest in drafting Sanders as well. When you put those pieces together, it starts to look like more than just coincidence. It suggests that Monken has been interested in coaching Shedeur Sanders for years. In fact, when the two finally met in person recently, there was a moment where Monken even joked about trying to draft him earlier. That kind of interaction shows there is already some level of respect between the coach and the young quarterback. But perhaps the most impressive moment in all of this came from Shedeur Sanders himself. When he was asked about Monken saying that the quarterback role is still to be determined, Sanders didn't react with frustration or ego. Instead, he gave what many people considered the perfect answer. He said that it's exactly what he expects and that every single day he has to prove himself, not just to the coaches, but to himself as well. That response says a lot about his mindset. Instead of acting entitled to the starting job, Sanders made it clear that he's focused on improving, hitting small goals, and building toward long-term success. That type of mentality is exactly what coaches want to see from a young quarterback trying to establish himself in the league. And there's another reason why Sanders might be approaching this situation differently from some other players. Money doesn't appear to be his main motivation. Thanks to the nil era in college football, Sanders already earned significant money before even entering the NFL. He has endorsement deals, a massive social media following, and major brand partnerships. Recently, he was even spotted in Paris attending a major fashion show event. In other words, his life and brand extend far beyond football. Because of that, many people believe he's playing the game for the love of competition and for the chance to prove himself at the highest level. He wants to show that he can succeed not just as Deion Sanders' son, but as his own man and his own quarterback. Now, of course, there is still another big factor in this situation: Deshaun Watson. Watson remains part of the Cleveland Browns organization, and his presence makes the quarterback situation even more complicated. However, some fans believe the Browns may eventually have to make a difficult decision. If Sanders proves that he's capable of leading the team, Cleveland might have to consider moving on from Watson in order to build the franchise around a younger quarterback. We've seen something similar happen before in the NFL. The Denver Broncos made the tough decision to move on from Russell Wilson despite the financial consequences. Sometimes teams have to take a short-term hit in order to secure their long-term future. If Shedeur Sanders continues to develop and wins the confidence of the coaching staff and the fan base, Cleveland could eventually decide to make him the face of the franchise, and if that happens, it could mark the beginning of a completely new chapter for the Browns, a team that has spent years searching for stability at the quarterback position. With Sanders' talent, confidence, and star power, some fans believe he might finally be the player who puts Cleveland back on the map and leads the team toward consistency.